Fair and SourcePoint, they are looking at who are ad blocker creators, are looking at various ways, analytics, persistent ad delivery, ad serving from existing ad servers. Also, ad block campaigns is equal to non-ad block campaigns. So there are ads which can be blocked and there are publishers who can come and unblock the ads as well. So there are various ways of looking at it. User choice engine in terms of ad preferences. For example, show me, only limited premium advertising, vis-a-vis show me all advertising, vis-a-vis show me no advertising. So these are some of the pointers there. The end game is there is no legal or regulatory silver bullets here. So there is nothing legal about the fact users have the right to block ads because it's my privacy, my freedom. There's enough talk about freedom happening if you've been watching the news channels or the newspapers in terms of freedom of speech here. Publishers have the right to unblock ads. Users must join the conversation. Ad block as a catalyst for good. Who all knows? Yeah, and what we already know, I'll not repeat this, is who are the ones who are really, blocking irrelevant ads. Irrespective of channels, what is more important is that if we are not targeted and relevant, we will get locked or viewers will really find alternatives. So I think it's a very important point here to say we need to be relevant, and which is nothing new that I'm saying here again. I think advertising and marketers from age old have been wanting to be relevant, not necessarily successful in being relevant to the consumers. Yeah, so if we want people to pay attention, then we have to add value, be relevant. We need to move from really the reach and the frequency models, to ones which are based on contextual and behavioral relevance, and that's where native advertising also, or branded content also, comes in the way. And while it's tough, I think it means that we need to change the way we look at either connections, data, planning, buying, creatives, formats, etc. So just a few updates. Washington Post, as I mentioned to you guys, they've just blocked the readers. So whoever wants can unblock and come on. There are also other publishers who are looking at branded content, to cater to audiences. And the other thing is that the industry is setting standards for ads that won't drive people to block them. In India, for example, with digital taking, the shape the way it is, there are actual briefs to creative agencies to create 4 to 5 seconders ads which are the message, so that at least when you are on digital, before even skip ad, you have to run the 3-4 seconds and the message actually gets conveyed in that. Yeah, so we need to change the question from how can I monetize every available digital space, well, that's the publisher's perspective, to would I, my kids, put an ad blocker here, and hence what is it that I need to do? So thank you, and I think let's be creative and produce good content which resonates with the audiences. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Anita. That was great. We'll just take a minute setting up the chairs, and we'll get into a little conversation. We'll invite Swapnil and Anita both up to the stage, and we can talk for a little bit. Excellent. Okay, please. Both very thoughtful and enlightening presentations from you both. Appreciate it. I guess one question I have following up on the agency side, Anita, is do you feel like viewability is an issue for agencies and advertisers in India at this time? And is it related to ad blocking?
It is certainly an issue, and which is why you find the print and the television, mediums thriving in our country. unlike the West. And when I get guys from global coming here and say, we don't understand your country because television is still so much, 45% print, 54% television, what the hell? I mean, what market is this? Whereas everywhere else, digital is really 54 or 55 odd percent. So yes, there is an issue there, and it's linked to various factors, the way the country operates.
Excellent, thank you. A question to you both before we get to questions from the audience is, where should publishers in the room start? What's the most important thing for them to return to their businesses and do today?
Publishers?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. There are a lot of things, and Anita covered at the end of her presentation also a little bit the lean. I like that IAB guidelines. So essentially, one thing would be to starting to understand why the consumers are doing what they're doing. It's their right to put an ad blocker. It's also important for them to understand that ads is the business on which the free content runs. So if we can be slightly better in our user experience, that's a very first step we have to do today. Follow it up with maybe some sort of a long-term strategy around coming together or insourcing ad tech and things like that, which is still slightly complicated. But I think the first thing is to at least get to understand why the users are doing what they're doing and starting to take the first steps for it.
Thank you.
See, from our perspective, like I said, and I've covered that in the presentation also, to say that, consumers are ruthless today, so they will only lap up what means something to them. So it's increasingly becoming important for all of us to be relevant, and we will take it a notch ahead to say to also be meaningful. What you covered in your presentation, Ben, towards the end, to say that, am I making a difference to their lives really? So here, with the ad world, in the digital situation specifically, you're just getting bombarded with ads which are many times absolutely irrelevant to you, because obviously, you're looking at covering a lot of audiences there, and hence whatever clicks there and whatever is your cost per lead, and then for conversion, to get the quality of audiences. So the audiences are actually getting bombarded by these advertisers, and it is irritating. It is. If I look at it from an advertising perspective and I'm pushing my, clients' advertising, to the audiences, I'm doing it because, there's revenue to the publisher, revenue to me, and some meaning to the advertiser. But actually what we very often, in all mediums, it is not only digital, forget, is the relevance of something to the audiences. So I think as long as we just connect with the audiences the way it's supposed to be, then I think there is absolute hope there.
Thank you. Questions from the audience? Yes? We've got a microphone coming, I think. I've got one. There you go. Would you mind saying your name and your publication? Thank you.
Naresh Khanna, Indian printer and publisher, a small B2B magazine. My question is, with due respect to the publishers here, I think in many of the publications, and also on television, to a large extent, the ads are better than the content. Okay, and I think some of the audience actually looks at the advertising for some element of meaning in the content. For an older person like me, I think that by seeing what is going on in advertising, I can get a better idea of what's happening in the society. That a lot of the advertising people are actually searching and finding out better stories than the journalists are. Okay, is there an opportunity for publishers to also sort of design their sites or their mobile sites by rating the ads for quality and sort of inversely charging them that if you have a better quality ad, more interesting ad, I will charge you a lower rate because that will be less interesting or less irritating and far more interesting to my audience. It will actually improve my site. It will improve my content.
You want to take that? Or?
Yeah, I'll take that. Actually, it's very relevant. Yeah, I mean, we would like to think that our content is not as bad, but I know it's a subjective question. But on the ad side, you're absolutely right. In fact, the ad stack, for example, the way we've designed Columbia ad stack is actually a second price auction system. So what that basically means is that if you if your click-through rates on the ads is better, you can, I mean, for example, a content advertiser, sometimes the click-through rates can be as high as 1%. While for a brand advertiser with a very dumb looking, photo of the product and say buy it or something like that, right? Could be a 0.02%. It's actually 50 times, the click-through rate is higher for the content guys. They are charged progressively less. So the system automatically essentially tries to say, if I showed 1,000 impression to this guy versus that guy, how much money I'm going to make. So the ad tech world is already evolved, and it's not that we've discovered something new. Google, Facebook do the same thing. So essentially, if your ad is more interesting, you're damn right, you're absolutely going to get charged much less from. So it's actually happening, and that is probably, you've hit the nail right in the head, is probably the secret sauce of all the success in ad tech world that you see. So people who have figured out that I can make more money, so you pay me 5 rupees CPC versus some guy who's paying me 2 rupees CPC, if he's 10 times more interesting, he will get more exposure. So it's actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's visual thinking to say that the publishers are going to charge you less for good quality ad. But I think if the content is good and if it resonates with the audiences, the automatic fallout of that is that you are being noticed, viewed, understood, and there is a lot of retention of that message, automatically, and you don't really need to expose it too much. So to my mind, probably the prize lies there. The reward of quality advertising lies there because it takes lesser time to resonate with the audiences and for your messages to go across. So I think at the moment, let's not look at monetary aspects, but the fact that if it's good quality ad and you, for example, remember seeing ads and you look forward to seeing ads to see what is happening out in the society. So let's, for the time being, take that as a reward for ourselves to say that my advertising or my message resonates far better than the others with the audiences.
Great question. I completely agree that quality relevant advertising is good content. If you're in the market for a new washing machine, a great ad telling you about a good washing machine that's close and cheap is good content. Yeah, absolutely. What are some other questions from the audience? Yes.
How do you balance data privacy in the current scenario where a lot of big data, you're looking at a lot of data, capturing a lot of user data, and then ensuring you are also managing users' data privacy. And I saw one of the reason for ad blocking is data privacy. And I also see a lot of ads. I've looked at Amazon, I've looked at a certain product, and I see on whatever news websites or any other publisher website, I'll see Amazon ads specific to that product. It looks really creepy. So how do you ensure users' data privacy, though you are still looking at capturing a lot of user data? How do you balance that?
I honestly don't have an answer to that, be honest to that, because I don't know. In India, as Swapnil had mentioned earlier also, data privacy, for some strange reason, at this point in time, is not so much of an issue. But we are getting there, because as you rightfully said, I mean, the retargeting that happens to you if you've gone and seen, a product, and the retargeting that happens to you when you're watching something and where that advertising is completely disruptive and irrelevant is happening. And that's the time when you get really irritated. So people who are very, very irritated will look at it from a data privacy perspective. But there is a lot of terms and conditions apply, and I say I agree and put that tick. Unfortunately, I think we guys do not read the terms and conditions, because somewhere those terms and conditions have this usage of your data inbuilt. So I think as we go along, more and more of people are getting, worried about that aspect and not really signing or ticking I agree just to get on, with what they're doing on the device. So I think it will in days or months to come be a challenge, and I think we need to fight that.
Maybe I'll just add to what Anita is saying. We have, so there are two kinds of data, right? One is PII data, personally identifiable data, right? One is anonymous data. And there are very different thought process of how we deal with those separate sets of data. So one is, if you're the anonymous data part, so for example, we track 150 million users a month on our ad tech stack. when we are rolling ad choices now and things like that, and you're right, I mean, we should have been more proactive. But we're very careful about ensuring that none of that data gets beyond, our safe houses of data stores. It does not get leaked into ad networks. If the PII data is getting captured, like registration information or something, it is always stored encrypted. It is never that phone number or that email address or that name can ever get into the hands of even our ad sales people for that matter, not just the outside ad networks. So there are, at least in the last 2 years, we've taken a lot of steps. I would not say that we are there at the level of a European publisher where a lot of rules come from the government directly, or even American publishers where it is slightly, definitely better than where we are. But we are at least trying to get there very, very quickly. So it is much better than what it was last year, to summarize. But like what Anita was saying, yeah, I mean, in India, the data privacy seems to be last on our mind when it comes to advertising industry in general.
Good question.
This is Didi Purkast from ABP Group. My question is regarding the millennials, the mindset of them. I mean, it is like they feel some ads intrusive. Yes, some ads could be intrusive, but you blocking theirs means you're throwing the baby with the bathwater. So I don't believe that a latest fashion garment, they don't have any, affinity towards that. They would love to see those ads. But by doing this, you're throwing everything out. So that can't be the option. There must be a model which must work out, which should cater to the things they like, they could be taken out, they don't like, should remain, but they're unfortunately not there. Just throwing everything out.
I don't think we said that is throwing everything out. Whatever is relevant to me is what I will watch. What is not relevant, I will not watch. That is what the millennials are about, and you'll be surprised. When we study millennials and their behaviors, it is actually shocking, to say as to how ruthless can these young people get. I have a daughter who's 17 years old, and she will go into all the fashion sites. Every second day there is one delivery happening at home for one dress, or one scarf or one shoe or something like that. So it's relevance again. And actually it is again something which is not new. Relevance to all types of consumers. So the millennials probably are more faster, like I said, are more ruthless. They know what they want. We were still told when we were young by our parents, and we told the line to say, okay, fine, you do this and you do that, you become a doctor, you become a lawyer, or you become an engineer. And today my daughter tells me, what, you're so down market, she tells me that on my face, to say, you don't even know what courses are happening there. I don't need to become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. So the game plan has changed. The complete ecosystem has changed today. And as advertisers, I'm telling you, we are struggling, with the messages, with the mediums, to see as to how can we target these millennials. So relevance, I think whatever is relevant to them will not get thrown out. It is completely appointment viewing for them. What I like is what I will watch. It's not like us that we're sitting in front of a television set and there are 20 ads which are running and we'll watch all of them. So it's very clear with them. So that's what I meant. What is relevant to them is what will stay with them.
And there is also an argument that a lot of millennials are blocking not because of our sites and content, but other sites that they go to, like gaming, betting, even adult sites that have really insidious forms of advertising on them. They're blocking because of those, and we're really being caught in the crossfire. And I think there's an argument to that as well. There's a question, the woman in the gray jacket.
Hi, I have a question with reference to browsers like Brave, which is supposed to be open source. Now, from what I saw at the presentation, they collect, what I've understood of Brave is they collect anonymous data. So why are we against something like that? Wouldn't that be a good place to go forward? Why are we not happy with something like Brave?
So Brave is a very interesting case study. Because Brave is a browser that has ad blocking inbuilt. They go to the extent of saying that we'll decide what ads you want to watch. So they take your ads and switch it with their ads. So effectively, to me, Brave is another ad network, simply put. It's just that they are maybe more careful about how intrusive the ads are being shown to the user. So it's an interesting play that someone else is deciding rather than the publisher what ads to show. And if you're, as a publisher, if you're not judicious and you're throwing up all kinds of ads and autoplay videos, and that is happening, especially if you outsource your ad sales to an ad network, then it is happening. But Brave is taking to the other extreme, saying, okay, as a publisher, you don't have control of what will show on your site, which I think is the extreme end. And that's where, well, not only the revenue takes a hit. By the way, Brave does, they claim that they will pay back the publishers also some percentage, I think 15% or something. But it's just the point that someone else decides what to run on my site is a little unsettling.
Sorry, can I just follow up? But from what I understood from Brave, from what I read up, was that they're saying that they will allow you to target audience based on anonymous information that's collected. So it's not like they're going to rework your ad.
No,
So
actually they would allow the advertiser to use that anonymous, but as a publisher, I will not have any control.
Okay.
So essentially the problem that what I'm trying to say is that as a publisher, I've been used to, ever since we were born as a publisher, that I control what is seen on my site, but now a browser is saying, well, I will allow the advertisers, I'm sure Anita won't mind, but that is very unsettling for the publisher, saying, okay, what was the messaging or the brand safety propositions or the block list or the formats that I thought made sense on my site now is controlled by the mediator, which is the tech company or Brave and the advertiser, but not the publisher. So that's, I think, well, that's also a result of the fact that we've been very, loose with how many ads we show and stuff like that. But at the same time, it cannot take the control away from the publisher. That's one view.
And that's one of the legal challenges going on in a number of countries, is that when you publish copyrighted work and somebody else manipulates it, they're infringing upon your copyright. And so that's sort of the basis of one of the legal challenges that are coming against the ad blockers. Time for one more question. Oh, come on, I know you're not that hungry. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, I'd like to thank our panelists and thank you as the audience. This is going to become an important issue, and it's something that I encourage you to start thinking about now so it doesn't affect you as negatively as it is some European publishers. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Enjoy lunch, and we'll see you out in the hall. Oh, and do take your bags.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a real pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you. So nice to see you again.
Nice meeting
See
you.
you. Great presentations, both.